turn it on. There we go. Hey, everybody. How is you? Good to see you. Thank you for coming out. All of you and the multitudes that we have here. It is wonderful to have everybody together this evening. Shut that off. Couple of things that I'm going to give you. Of course, I'm behind. There you go. Look at there. I'm going to give you some announcements because we got a bunch. Got some new stuff coming. Need to invite some people. Before we get to the new stuff, here's the old stuff. Sunday school, yeah, Sunday school, preaching in the choir in here, but come. Next homeschool meeting for us is May the 11th, which is in a couple of weeks, and we'll gather together for anybody's there. I originally had a whole bunch of different messages series that I was going to do, and I changed them all, so I hope you don't mind. We're going to do a Mother's Day one. Let me shut this down so I don't hear myself. Mother's Day one that's called Bittersweet. We're going to be talking about Naomi. It's on May the 12th, and so come and be part of that. And then after that, we're going to do the Don't Be a Dummy series. We'll go right through that, May 26th through June 16th. There's one Wednesday night. We're not having Wednesday night, so don't come. I'll let you know when that is. June 23rd. We're going to do an end of the school year escape room right here because that was when it fit in the calendar. So we're going to do an escape room. I'm calling it an end of the school year escape room, but it's just the escape room. Yeah, it's a summer escape room. It kind of kicks us off. And then after that, June 30th, we're going to do Ask Anything. And then after that, July the 14th, well, July the 7th is VBS. July the 14th, we're going to do a mystery bus ride. And you know what to do. Bring $5, show up, get on the bus. We'll drive somewhere fun. Yeah, you can, please. And hopefully things will be open by then. I don't You maybe so. I don't know. July 21st, we're doing deep, and then after that, we're going to the Ark. So that's all that's happening throughout the summer. There's some other stuff that's going on, but I'll bring that along throughout the week. But tonight we're talking about icebergs. Icebergs. There we go. For this week and the next week, and so we'll finish out. We're talking about David. But before we get there, I have a game that Pat's gonna love. Yeah. It's called Ancient Artifacts. Shh. So here's the instructions. It said, have you ever wished you were an archaeologist? Do you think that you have what it takes to discover ancient artifacts? In this game, you're going to come across items from the ancient history, the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and you have to write or text the items. Just tell me. And their use before anyone else and before your time runs out. Each correct answer earns you $1,000 college credits. Maybe not college credits, but you get the 1,000 points. And the team with the most points at the end wins. Got it? I'm coming. You missed. You play every other sport but basketball, right? Okay. So, so here we go. Ready? Number 1. Let's see if you can figure out what that is. There you go. Do you know what that is? No? Maddie, not a clue? Yeah, that would be remote control. No, this is a beeper, pager, yeah. Used to send phone numbers or text messages, but they can only be like 20 characters long or something. Phone number is... Huh? Very good question. I don't remember. How did we type that stuff? I guess you had to kind of... I knew it was like kind of like when I call your phone, it automatically shows my number. Well, that's kind of what it does, but it just goes beep, 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 and you can type in a message. Yeah. You could later, but I don't remember how we did it. Yeah, or BlackBerry or whatever, yeah. All right, here's the next one. Ready? A what? What? It is a fax machine, yeah. We still do that. Our copier still has fax capability. But this is, remember, it was thermal paper. And you couldn't breathe on it or else it would turn black. Or leave it out in the sun and it would, yeah. All right, you ready? Here you go. Uh-huh. What? Nope. 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 The top of a shredder? Yeah, it does look like that. Nope. It actually is. But it's a specific kind of printer. No. No, no, no. This is a dot matrix printer. Because what it used to do is, instead of printing like the stuff we do today, it actually printed little dots. And it had 2 big rollers on the side that had pins in them, and that's how the paper used to come up with the tracks on it. Dot matrix printer. All right, this one should be easy. Let's find out. It It's just a typewriter. Yeah, used to type. That's all it was. Type documents. Still haven't? Anybody still have one of those? Can't even buy one of those anymore. Do you? Yeah. All right. Here you go. A Game Boy? Cards. For the Atari? No. No. I had one. I had one in my car. My not recent car. Like an N64? No. But you're close. It is a cartridge of type. This is an 8-track. So that little bottom piece there has tape in it. Yeah. And you put it in there and it would just roll and just keep going back and forth. It had actually, well, it had 8 tracks, but it had 4 different buttons on it, and you push it and you can switch tracks. And yep, that was music back in the olden days. All right, here you go. A what? A fan. Bingo. Okay. It's a filer. You're getting there. They do use it in an office. Well, almost like you would roll it. Yeah. Yeah. Or you can attach business cards to them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's called a Rolodex. The Rolodex. So you put them in there and you spin it, and as you spin it, the things would come around and you could find, it was before you had an address book on your phone. Yeah. Do you? I think your dad still has one too. He's got a little card file. I don't think he has a Rolodex, the official Rolodex. All right. It is? What kind of tape? A movie tape. A VHS tape. You know what VHS stands for? Yeah, you're reading the screen. Yeah, it is. It is a video home system, a VHS tape. Movies. Yeah, because it was everybody recording. All right, here you go. A trash can. It does look like a trash can, doesn't it? It's actually only about this big. A mini trash can. This big. Nope. They are. It's a 35 millimeter film canister, actually. Yeah. All right. A paper laminator. Uh-huh. Okay. A toy boat. Kind of looks like one, doesn't it? A little toy barge. No. It is. Or a restaurant. Or a store. You get the receipts out of. A what? No, he actually used the. Yeah. This is a manual credit card imprinter. You put the credit card in that little thing in the bottom, and you put the receipt on top, and you go. Carbon copies. Yep. Yep. Yeah. There's no need to. Yep. All right. Here we go. A CD. A square CD. So, yeah. It is in 16 candles. He mentions it. Matter of fact, he makes a bet for it. The actual dimensions are 5 1/4 inches, or they had 3 1/2 as well. No. Yeah. Well, yeah. We always did 5 1/4 and 3 1/2. Yeah. Or minis. A what? A. Like. Yes. You're right. This is a floppy disk. Floppy disk, 5 1/4, goes into a computer, not a CD. And then they had the 3 1/2s, which had little sliding doors. Those were minis that you could put on there. Yep. All right, last one. Oh, I just gave you the answer. Never mind. Yeah, that's a VHS rewinder. Well, that's all I got. Sorry. Yeah, there we go. Ancient artifacts. for all those. We're going to sing a little bit. Everybody stand up. We're going to go ahead and sing. What? Oh, look. I'm sorry. Crystal, you were on there. Whoops. Hey, y'all. I didn't see you online. Good to see you. We're going to sing a little bit. You can sing with us. Hopefully that's still in tune. We'll find out. I'm not prepared. Now I am. They're still, yeah, Be Kind, Rewind. I forgot about that. There we go. Water you turned into wine. Open the eyes of the blind. There's no one like you. None like you. Into the darkness you shine. Out of the ashes we rise. There's no one like you. None like you. Our God is greater, our God is stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer, awesome in power. Our God, our God. Water you turned into wine. Open the eyes of the blind. There's no one like you, none like you. Our God is greater, our God is stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer, awesome in power. Our God, our God. Our God is greater, our God is stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer, awesome in power. Our God, our God. Sing it out. And if our God is for us, then who could ever stop us? And if our God is with us, then what could stand against? And if our God is for us, then who could ever stop us? And if our God is with us, then what could stand against? Then what could stand against? Our God is greater, our God is stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer, awesome in power. Our God, our God. Our God is greater, our God is stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer, awesome in power. Our God, our God. And if our God is for us, then who could ever stop us? And if our God is with us, then what could stand against? And if our God is for us, then who could ever stop us? And if our God is with us, then what could stand against? Then what could stand against? All right, we're going to keep singing. This is one that I think you know, you recognize. We've done it before. You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you, I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you, I worship you. You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you, I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you, I worship you. You are Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. You are Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. You are here, touching every heart. I worship you, I worship you. You are here, healing every heart. I worship you, I worship you. You are here, turning lives around. I worship you, I worship you. You are here, mending every heart. I worship you, I worship you. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. You are Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. 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 You know, there's times that God is working and we don't even realize it. He's always working in our lives. Some things we're going to learn tonight. Regardless of whether you think He's there or not, He's always moving, always working. So we're going to sing that right now. Even when I don't see you, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. Never stop working. Never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. Never stop working. Never stop. Sing it again. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. Never stop working. Never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. Never stop working. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. You are Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. Sing it again. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. 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 Have a seat. So last week we started talking about icebergs. Remember that you can only really see the top 10% of an iceberg. And so the goal for this series is to challenge you to think less about the small part that everybody can see, but to think more about that 90% that's below the surface. And I challenged you last week to consider pressing into what's below the surface rather than focusing on what's above the surface, right? So if you remember last week, we were talking about David. And David was about to be king. He was anointed to be king as a young boy. But we know that he didn't take the throne until almost 15 or 16 years later from the time that he was anointed to be king. God had him in the process of building his character before that he could ever take place. And if you think about it this way, David got to practice. We talked about that last week. He got to practice before he became king. Remember, we talked about Michael Jordan, how he practiced so much, and what led him to become such a great basketball player. But he also experienced what it was like to get cut from a team. I don't know if you realize that or not. He was actually cut from, I think it was here, Laney High School basketball team. Yeah, that's Coach Lynch's claim to fame. Anyway, but it allowed him true determination, right? There's an author named Malcolm Gladwell, and he wrote a book that's called Outliers. And in the book, he wrote about these people who who stand out for doing excellent work, right? And he wrote about athletes and musicians and CEOs who put in the work to get better at what they do. And one of the things he wrote about was how all these successful people have practiced more than the average person. In fact, he wrote about something called the 10,000-hour rule. The idea of this is that anyone who spends 10,000 hours practicing something will eventually be an expert at it. And this is what he said. He said, practice, there it is, isn't the thing that you do once you're good, it's the thing you do that makes you good. Practice isn't the thing that you do once you're good, it's the thing you do that makes you good. See, when we talk about David, David would eventually be a great king, but he wasn't there yet. He had a lot to do, a lot to learn, and it was true of so many other people in the Bible. Joseph, when we think about Joseph, you want to talk about somebody who had to endure a long season of trials before God would allow him to rule. Or Moses had to lead the Israelites through a whole 40 years in Egypt, before he would be able to lead the nation of Israel out of slavery. And Peter and the rest of the disciples would go through this season of learning before it would be their turn to lead the church when we get to the book of Acts. So I want to make something clear. I'm not saying that you work to earn God's love. We don't. I'm not saying that at all. But God's love, and God's love is a free gift to everybody, but I do believe that God does supernatural things through people who devote their lives to Him. So we're going to look at 1 Samuel 18:6, and we're going to pick up right where we left off last week. David had just killed Goliath, if you remember, cut off his head, said he celebrated, but the celebration caused a huge problem for Saul. See, Saul wanted all of the everything. He wanted all the accolades. He wanted all of the praise. So here's what it says, 1 Samuel 18:6 and 7. It says, they were coming home when David returned from striking down the Philistine. The women came out of all of the cities of Israel singing and dancing to meet King Saul with tambourines, with songs of joy and musical instruments. And the women sang to one another as they celebrated, Saul has struck down his thousands and David his 10,000s. And Saul was very angry, and this saying displeased him. He said, they have ascribed to David 10,000s, and to me they have ascribed thousands. And what more can he have but the kingdom? And Saul eyed David, from that day on. So automatically we see what Saul cared about, right? He cared about what people could see. He cared about what people said about him. And he cared about what people saw him. He wanted to make sure that he was the strongest warrior and the best king, and that people saw him as victorious. And it's obvious what was below the surface for Saul. That was conceit and bitterness and wrath. It was all down in there. So the 10%, he may have smiled as everybody walked, but down below in that 90% of Saul wasn't good. It was all rotten. Someone once told me that holding on to bitterness against somebody else is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. Think about that. It begins to just wreck everything that's inside of you, especially your thoughts. And Jesus speaks to this issue in the New Testament when he's addressing the Pharisees. He says this, "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you clean the outside of the cup and the plate, but inside they are full of greed and self-indulgence." My goodness. So here, imagine this. Imagine you're having a dinner party. You're having friends over. And at the end of the night, dishes, I don't know if you've ever had people over to your house, you serve and dishes, whatever, and they're just totally dirty. Everything's a mess, right? And you need to clean up. So you stuff your dishes in the dishwasher, run it. When you open the dishwasher, you find it only cleaned the dishes on the outside and of the cups, but not the inside. But you don't think about it, so you just put the dishes back in the cupboard, all crusted, nasty, and dirty on the inside of the cups. Yeah. Right? But the outsides are clean and ready to go. So now, how many of you would want to come over, if I did that, how many of you want to come over to my house for the next party? Pull out the plates and bowls, and they have all this dried up food on the inside of them when I pull them out. Yeah, the insides of the cups are caked with food from the last person that used them. Think about that. What's wrong with this? So it should be obvious then that we'd want to make sure that we focus on the inside of our lives, which is our heart. It's totally understandable to make sure that you look good, but don't lose grasp of what's really important, which is your heart. Let's keep reading, because the problem growing is we're reading in 1 Samuel 18. It says this, "And David had success in everything he did, for the Lord was with him. And when Saul saw that he had great success, he stood in fearful awe of him. But all Israel and Judah loved David, for he went out and came in before him." Yeah, so David grew in success. Saul grew in fear. And you might even say that Saul's heart was a little unhealthy. And so things between Saul and David got even worse as we look through it. It says, "But when Saul saw and knew that the Lord was with David, and that Michal, Saul's daughter, loved him, Saul was even more afraid of David." So Saul was David's enemy continually. New Living Translation, "And Saul was David's enemy for the rest of his life." So over and over we see Saul determined to make David his enemy, simply because he didn't like that David had experienced success. And at this point, it became painfully clear that Saul was dying from the inside out. And so he was still king, but inside he had been eaten alive with bitterness and wrath. So this is kind of the perfect picture, the quintessential picture of someone who's only concerned with what is seen from the tip of the iceberg. And that was Saul. He only cared what people see on the tip of the iceberg. While others are concerned with what's beneath the surface, Saul is only worried about what people could see, which is at the top. And that's what I want to focus on tonight. If you only focus what's on the surface, that 10%, you're most likely going to end up with a heart that feels empty. I mean, think about that. The love of God is the only thing that can fill that void. You can't fill it with money. You can't fill it with sex. You can't fill it with relationships, with popularity, with cars or friends. People who build their inner self by focusing on their relationship with Jesus are the ones that find true contentment. If you were in the service last Sunday, that's exactly what we were talking about. And there is a major difference between people who focus on the inner self, that stuff below the surface, and check out what happens. Here's what it says in 1 Samuel 24. It says, "When Saul returned from following the Philistines, he was told, 'Behold, David is in the wilderness of En-Gedi.' And then Saul took 3,000 chosen men out of all of Israel, went to seek David and his men in front of the wild goats' rocks. And he came to the sheepfold by the way, where there was a cave, and Saul went in to relieve himself. Now David and his men were sitting in the innermost parts of the cave. And the men of David said to him, 'Here is the day of which the Lord said to you, Behold, I will give your enemy into your hand, and you shall do to him as it shall seem good to you. And then David arose and stealthily cut off just a corner of Saul's robe. And afterwards, David's heart struck him because he had cut off the corner of Saul's robe. See, it's kind of like this scene in a movie theater. You know, everybody's at the edge of their seat. Can you imagine how quiet and sneaky David had to be just to get out there and just to cut off and to pull this off? So here's David's response, and it shows his true heart. He said to his men, "The Lord forbid that I should do this thing to my Lord, the Lord's anointed, to put out my hand against him, seeing he is the Lord's anointed." So David persuaded his men with these words and did not permit them to attack Saul. And Saul rose up and left the cave and went on his way. See, David's heartfelt conviction wouldn't let him take Saul's life. He wouldn't let him do it. Even though some would say that it would have solved all of his problems, that, just kill Saul and everything will be okay. I mean, this is incredibly important. There's a lot of times that our culture is going to tell you you can go get it for yourself or do whatever you need to get ahead, But David knew that God's law was something different. David had so much trust in God's promises that he chose to obey even when it would be easier to disobey. So at this point, Saul had completely lost track of what mattered most, but David made solid decisions that were rooted in his convictions. And what do we take away? Well, tonight, we're going to zero in on the truth, and here it is, right here. Practice what you want to perfect. Practice what you want to perfect. I mean, right off the bat, I want you to know my heart. My expectation is not that you're going to be perfect. Okay? While God knows that we'll never be perfect, He does want us to strive for righteousness and holiness and discipleship and things like that. 1 Peter says this, "But as He who called you is holy, you also be holy in all your conduct, since it is written, you shall be holy, for I am holy." So what does it look like to practice Christianity? That's a tough one, What does it really look like? Maybe for you it's that you need to start Bible reading again, or start a Bible reading plan. There's a lot of great plans. If you have a Bible app, everybody use the Bible app? Yeah, some do, some don't, yeah. The Bible app, there's a lot of great plans on there. You download it for free. You can do the plans over and over again. You can read the Bible through in a year, or read the Bible through in 60 days, or just do a 4-day, 5-day, 3-day, 1-day, whatever. The other thing you could do is you can talk to other people. Talk to leaders. Talk to Mr. Pat or Shannon or myself. And, we would love to be able to talk to you to help practice Christianity. Maybe you need to make a decision that you're going to pray before you go to school every day. Just a couple of minutes, Or if you're not a morning person, how many of you are morning people? Jeb, Maddie, you're not a morning person. I know you better. She what? Oh, well, how about that? So you had lots of time to study and read God's Word and pray. You went back to bed. Okay. But here's what I'm saying. If you're not a morning person, maybe you do better if you pray a couple minutes before bed, Just a couple minutes. It would make an incredibly huge difference in your life. And you're like, well, I don't know how to pray. Well, just talk to God. I mean, really talk to God. Share with Him everything. I'm driving down the road. People think I'm strange because I'm talking to God, and they all think I'm talking to myself. I'm tempted just to get one of those little Bluetooth headphones so people don't look at me screwy going down the road, But that's what I'm doing. I'm praying. I'm talking to God with my eyes open because I'm driving. Or, there's a lot of times that I just feel the need, I got to pray, and I will. Just talk openly. Lord, I've got a bunch of decisions I got to make today, and help me through them. What do I need to do? Just for a couple minutes. Maybe a next step for you means that you need to commit to serving in your church. You can serve here. I know, Jeb, you serve, and Maddie, you serve. But, I mean, there's maybe you need to continue serving. Find somewhere to serve. Find somewhere else to serve. If you need help deciding what the next step is, you can talk to me or somebody else, and we'd be happy to help you. Whatever it is, the key to spiritual success is making sure that you focus on your growing heart. Proverbs 4:23 says this. Nope, that's not what it says. That's what it says. It says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Think about that. Guard your heart, for everything that you do flows from it. Now, there's a lot of places in the New Testament that talk about the inner being. Paul in Ephesians 3:16 through 19 says this, that according to the riches of the glory, he may grant you to be strengthened with power through his Spirit in your inner being, so that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith, that you, being rooted and grounded in love, may have strength to comprehend with all the saints what is the breadth and length and height and depth, and to know the love of Christ, that surpasses knowledge, that you may be filled with all of the fullness of God. See, we find our focus here that we are to be strengthened in our inner being, that Christ may dwell in our hearts through faith. So do you see how that's different from focusing on the top part of what people can see versus focusing on the depth? You need to focus on your inner being. And do you see how that's different? It's a challenge to guard your hearts. Now, last week, I closed by asking you to consider that you're living in some of the most significant days of your life. You know, whether you believe that or not, it's true. The decisions that you make today are going to affect not just tomorrow, but years from now. So don't consider this stage of it might be that you don't consider this stage of your life important. And probably, I think when I was your age, I really didn't. It was just like, oh, I'm just whatever. But in all actuality, you're choosing the path for the rest of your life right now. I always kid around when I teach about parents and stuff like that. Let me help you out. You will become one of your parents. Just let that sink in a little bit. You will become one of your parents. You know. Now let me put it even further. Most times you become the parent of the opposite sex. Most times. Guys have a better relationship with their moms. Girls have a better relationship with their dads. You know, it's just the way it is. Now, you will become a mix of both of your parents. It just happens. So whatever you don't like about your mom or dad, like, I'll never do that. Don't ever say that. Trust me, because you will become your parents when you grow up. You know, it's like the whole, what is it? The Geico commercial or whatever it is. I'm trying to train you not to become, you know, they turn, when they buy a house, they suddenly become their parents. I don't remember what it is, but it's absolutely true, you know. Progressive, maybe that's it, yeah. And so that's why I said you are choosing a path for the rest of your life right now as you make every decision that you do. You are absolutely living in a very significant season of your life. So whatever you do now will affect not just tomorrow, not just next week, not just next month, but years from now. So imagine if you decided to begin to practice the kind of disciplines that you want to display later. I mean, think of somebody who's a spiritual hero in your life, somebody that you look up to. I guarantee they didn't get there because they hoped they would. They started to practice those kinds of disciplines over and over and over again. Go back to Michael Jordan, same thing. He didn't become the best basketball player of all time without practicing for hours and hours. So think about somebody that you look up to. You know, maybe it's a Sunday school teacher, maybe it's a parent, maybe it's a minister, maybe it's somebody you know in the congregation, maybe it's somebody you don't that's not in this church, but somebody that you know that you look up to spiritually. There is no way to get that they got to a place in their relationship with God on accident. Perhaps in moments when other people would watch Netflix, they decided to spend time reading God's Word. Or when someone else might wake up just in time for school, they made a decision to wake up 30 minutes early to spend some time in prayer. Just saying. They made a decision to wake up 30 minutes early to spend some time in prayer. I am. Anyway, what do you think it looks like for you to practice what you want to perfect? That's the bottom line. What do you think it looks like for you to practice what you want to perfect? Uh, even more to the point, what is it that you want to perfect? You know? And so here's what I want you to do tonight as we leave. Take some time to think about how you can take the next step in your relationship with Jesus by finding out, what do you want to perfect? What are the kinds of things that you want to work on? And then what does it look like to practice what you want to perfect spiritually? You know? Oh, I'd really love to have a deeper relationship with God. Okay, well, practice that. You know, reading your Bible, praying, talking to Him. You can't have a relationship with anybody unless you talk to them or spend time with them, you know, and them speaking to you. You know, what does it look like to make great decisions in the faith? Well, again, same thing. Spending time in God's Word, because God's Word gives us what we need daily, every day. And the more that you read it, even more so, the more that you memorize it and place it in your heart, the easier it is for God to pull that out and use when He needs to. So those are the kind of things that I want you to think about tonight as we close. All right? Let me pray, and we'll let you go. Father, thank you for this time together. My prayer, Lord, as always, is that you would speak to our hearts. Show us in our lives what we can perfect, what we can do better. And help us to realize those things. Help us and show us. And then help us to practice the discipline of practicing what we want to perfect. Give us an example, whether it's in your word or in real life, of somebody that we can follow, somebody that we can just follow by example, that we can emulate. And help us to do that, Lord, each and every day. Get us up early, or help us to remember at the end of the evening to spend some time in prayer, and, Lord, to spend some time with you each and every day. Lord, for those within the sound of my voice always that don't know Jesus, my prayer is that they would come to know Him through the gospel, understanding their separation from Him, their need from Him. And that's instead of trying to fill their lives with all of that stuff, that popularity or sex, fame, money, whatever, that they would fill their lives with Jesus. And they do that by simply realizing that He died on the cross for them to pay for the sins and the problems, the mistakes, the brokenness of their life. And that they would understand that He is Lord, and they would place themselves under the rightful authority of Jesus Christ by confessing that, by talking to Him and telling Him, Lord, I know I'm a sinner, I know I need you, and I want to ask you into my life right now. And so, Father, if there are people out there that for the very first time, for the 100th time, for the 1000th time have heard that now they would have the opportunity to do that they would. And so, Lord, whatever you need to do in people's lives tonight, I pray that you would. And we ask all this in Jesus' holy name. Amen. Thanks for coming. We'll see you next week.